Hey VC, how we doing? Adam here from the Freight. Hope you guys are all having a great day. I wanted to come back to you guys for another What's Been Spinning this past week or so. I had a little bit of a successful antique store / thrift store outing early last week. Picked up some things that I wasn't all that familiar with as far as like the specific albums and songs, but knew the artists and the genres, and they were priced fairly, so I grabbed them. And some really awesome surprises after listening to the music. I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoy buying a genre of music, especially on vinyl, that I am sort of aware of and know the artist, and it makes me sort of not afraid to try a record out, even if I'm not wholeheartedly familiar with it. I think that's one of the things I actually love most about vinyl and digging is finding something old that's new for me, and I definitely have a couple of those here. The first one in that vein, I know this one very well, and I'm sure you guys do too, but I didn't have a copy of it, not something that, was on my radar to pick up, but I saw it out there. I think it was like $12 or something at an antique shop. Steppenwolf, their greatest hits. I mean, this has, Magic Carpet Ride, The Pusher, which is, I think, my favorite track of theirs. This is a really, really good sounding record. It has that early 70s rock sound that is strong, guitar-driven, fuzz-driven, borderline psych. I would not call this psych, but it's like entering that garage rock fuzz guitar world. Lots of great tracks on this. Add it to your list if you have a copy of this or looking. Maybe haven't thought about this band in a while. This is a great record, and definitely recommend this. Steppenwolf, greatest hits. This is one I grabbed from Discogs not too long ago. I love Lou Donaldson. You guys, if you've seen any of my previous episodes, you know I love soul jazz, and Lou Donaldson's definitely one of my favorite artists in that realm. And so this is an earlier record of his. This is one I picked up on Discogs. I think just like maybe looking for Lou Donaldson records, this one I found, pretty cheap. It's called Poinciana. Was not one that I was familiar with, but again, grabbed it at a good price from Discogs, and it is awesome because it is earlier than, like Alligator Boogaloo and, Mr. Shilling, which he's probably more known for and have had some Tone Poet reissues and classic reissues. It's not as soul jazz as that, definitely not, but this is more sort of bop swinging, predating the soul jazz thing that he would go on to be, in my opinion, one of the best at. And this is great. It was a really great listen. Really nice to hear him do that hard swing thing that predated the soul jazz thing. So it was really cool to hear that. That was a really cool pickup. Poinciana, again, this is a pressing Jazzbird. Dude, I think this might be the only Jazzbird record label album that I have. No, I don't know any details about it. If you guys know about Jazzbird record label, school me on it. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to learn more. It sounded pretty good. It wasn't, I don't think it was necessarily audiophile, quote unquote, but it was a very good sounding pressing. Definitely no issues. And it was a very enjoyable listen. All right, this next one. I was familiar with this record. I had a copy of it that was beat, so I was psyched to get an upgraded copy. This is an artist that I love very much. I want to say this came out in 1977. Freddie Hubbard, Bundle of Joy. This is Freddie Hubbard is one of those artists that has been involved in every kind of iteration of jazz from the late 50s onward. And his journey is amazing, and he's been on so many records, and he's definitely one of my favorite horn players. And this particular record, this is one of the gold promos there that I found at an antique shop. So it was definitely an upgrade copy because my copy was beat that I had of this. Probably another antique shop find. But if you can see here, got the gold label promo. Hopefully you get that on there. Yeah, so got the gold promo. Sounds really good. This is a Columbia press. I find the Columbia records from the 70s almost across the board sound really good. That goes for across genres. Jazz, some of the Bob Dylan Columbia records sound great. The Miles Davis Columbia records from the 70s sound great. So yeah, if any of you guys have additional input or info on that, that kind of theory or thing that I noticed where Columbia records from this era in the 70s tend to sound really good. I mean that. And this is one of them. This is one of those records that is, you have the sound on it. It's got that soul jazz thing, but there are melodies all over it. There are, familiar sounds everywhere on it, right? And it's got that kind of slapping bass going on. It's that, sort of middle to end period leading into the 80s where it went a little over the top. But you can hear that sound, the beginnings of those kinds of sounds on that record. And I really enjoy it, especially when it's done by someone like Freddie Hubbard, at that level, because there's no misses there. So great record. And you can get that real cheap. I think that was like $5, maybe $10. All these records I paid between $5 and $10 for. $5 and $15 for. That was the max I paid for those. So anyway, Paul McCartney, Back to the Egg. I actually didn't own a copy of Back to the Egg, excuse me, from Wings. And this is the last Wings record. This is a underrated Wings album. There's no huge hits on here, but there are some real gems. And this is a record that you want to listen to from beginning to end. Give the whole thing a chance and listen to it as a piece of music, as a piece of record, of sort of a whole album. I look back on this with fondness. I think it's really great. Obviously I'm a little partial of being such a big Beatles fan, but I don't think this record gets the love that it deserves because I think it is a really good record. And I think this is probably the best iteration of Wings with, Lawrence Juber and obviously Denny Lane's there. He was sort of the other constant, but really good record. Give it a listen if you haven't, and go from beginning to end. Don't just skip around. Give it a whole shot. Really good record. Okay, next I found this. Man, what a great record this was. This is one of those things that I did not know this record, but obviously I know Hugh Masekela. So Hugh Masekela, The Promise of a Future. This was excellent. Okay, let me show you the label on this one. Maybe you guys will know more about it than I will. I'll show you the back here. And you can see it's got the sticker on the front, the hype sticker that says, including Grazing in the Grass. Great song. I really love Hugh Masekela. He has such melody and soul in his playing that comes through in all of his songs. And he's one of those guys that just doesn't blow just to blow on the horn. He really has an intent that I really love. It's always very melodic. It's always very heartfelt. And it's something I really love about Hugh Masekela. And I think in this record, he picks beautiful melodic songs. So you can see this is on looks like the In record label, Promise of the album is called The Promise of a Future, Hugh Masekela. Let me see if you guys can see the label there. I believe this came out in 1969. Great record, great release. I think you can get it pretty cheap on Discogs too. Again, I found it at the antique store, but if you ever want to seek it out, it's awesome. It's got some background singers in it, so it has like not vocal songs that are like vocal led, but it's got some voices in it. Some background. There's some female background vocalists, and they come in at awesome times and make the song, add some almost some gospel world feel to it. That's really wonderful. Can't recommend that album enough. Really, really great. Okay, this is another kind of in that ilk of I know the artist but didn't know this record. Stanley Clarke, School Days. Stanley Clarke, of course, phenomenal bass player from the Return to Forever fame. I did not know this record. I looked at it and I'm like, okay, you know, this is clearly just, you know, you can kind of date it. It's got that late 70s vibe thing going on, which it does. And this record was killer. It sounds awesome. Got that slap bass going. It has some incredible bass solos. Yes, I said it, incredible bass solos. It exists. It is a real awesome thing when it's done amazingly, and it is done amazingly on this record. So Stanley Clarke, School Days, again, just a cheap heat record. I think you can find this on Discogs. Very, very cheap. And I really like, this has that sound that approaches that late 70s into the 80s, which someone might call cool jazz or approaching cool jazz. Some people say that like it's a dirty phrase. I don't. I mean, I get it. I know sometimes that sound can go a little too far and be a little too whatever for some people. Not for me a lot of the time. When it is too far, it's too far, but I guess it just takes more for me to get to that place. I really enjoy this genre of music, that soul jazz that kind of leads into that 80s sound, and even with some of that 80s sound, I really enjoy it. And I think some of those records sound fantastic. Stanley Clarke, School Days, sounds fantastic. Really great music on it. And I don't think you'd be disappointed picking it up, especially for how cheap you can get it. Okay, this is another one. Again, I've heard of the artist, didn't have any of her material. Barbara Mason, Give Me Your Love. This is a soul, kind of a more traditional soul record. I wouldn't even say soul jazz. I would say more just straight up soul. And this has like some Motown flavor to it, some late Motown flavor to it. It's got this like romantic vibe throughout. It's on Buddha Records. You can see that there. This copy is probably a VG copy, so it had some noise, but I was still able to listen to the whole thing with no problems and really enjoy it. It was really great. She sings, you know, songs that are, she's got that 70s soul thing going, and she sings songs that are like, you know, kind of like these songs you don't really hear anymore, like these like kind of longing songs, you know, like, you know, when you're coming home to me, when you're bringing your love to me kind of stuff. And it's really great. I enjoyed it top to bottom. Definitely recommend it. Again, it's one that you can pick up really cheap, that I would definitely recommend. Sounded really good too. This one on CTI Records. I don't know if you guys know about CTI Records. Creed Taylor Industries is what it stands for. Creed Taylor was someone who was, I believe, at the ground level of, I want to say Verve Records, if I'm not mistaken. I know you'll correct me if I'm wrong. In the 50s and 60s, and then he went on to create CTI. CTI in the 70s released some of the coolest, most hip jazz soul records you could possibly imagine. The one that comes to mind for me as my favorite CTI release is Freddie Hubbard, Red Clay, which I think I mentioned last week. That was a CTI release. There are a lot of releases like that. Freddie Hubbard was a CTI artist for a long time. And so with this one, we have Herbie Hancock, Freddie Hubbard, Stanley Turrentine, Ron Carter, Jack DeJohnette, and Eric Gale. This is Starlight, in concert, Volume 2. This was so good, okay? So I guess the story of this is it was some kind of one-time concert that I guess Creed Taylor was putting on. Got these obviously ridiculously amazing artists to come in, recorded the concert. There is a Volume 1. This is Volume 2. Now I have to seek out Volume 1. But this was not expensive. I want to say I paid like $10 for it. It was excellent. Awesome live show. I love that it was live. It's just got that vibe, even more than, a session, those kind of traditional sessions that were recorded live, whatever. I know that is live, but this is really live, in the hall, in the room, and it was great. Really, really enjoyed this. Anytime you see CTI Records, give them a second look, because I really like CTI as a label. I think they had some really good hits in that 70s period. Okay, this next one, again, this is a perfect example of someone who I have heard of and obviously know is a fantastic vocalist, but I did not have any of her records. Diane Reeves, and this was actually sealed when I bought it in the antique store. It was just a sealed copy. I think I paid $10 for it. Diane Reeves, what's the title of this one? River Too Far. And this was so good. I'm going to show you the label. So this was on EMI. You can see that there. Hopefully you can see that. This was excellent. It has that 80s sound, okay? This is, I think, firmly kind of established in that 80s sound. But again, her vocals just carry this record so beautifully. And, you know, she sings, you know, some intense songs on this, really intense songs that range a gauntlet of emotions. You can really pick up on it. A couple of them were pretty heavy, and then a couple of them were just beautiful and joyous and uplifting and amazing. And her vocals were incredible, and this record sounded fantastic. Again, if you're into sound quality, this is a very sort of cheap heat record that you can pick up and appreciate the sound quality that goes into into that sort of 80s era, late 70s, 80s era of jazz that I think there are some real hidden gems in that time frame that a lot of people just write off as not jazz, and it's not cool enough for them, and it's not the old stuff that was happening back in the day. I don't mind the evolution of it. I enjoy it. This is a good example of where vocal jazz was heading. And there is some real moments of honestly, Whitney Houston type vocal pop in here, where you can totally hear, maybe some influence one way or the other from Whitney. But I would say there's a Whitney comparison in here for sure, with some of these songs. What a voice. Really very cool record. Definitely recommend picking it out. Okay. This next one, I think this is like a $5 record. It's in, I would say it's in VG shape. The jacket's probably in good plus shape. But I saw it and I wasn't going to not get it. Quincy Jones, Walking in Space. This is that sort of mid-70s period for Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones is a composer above all else, and people might know him from his, Thriller fame and Michael Jackson fame, but this guy, Quincy Jones, Berkeley grad, my dad, he is someone who goes way back, to the jazz compositions that happened back in the, 50s and all the way through. This is someone who kept his pulse on music, and this is a perfect example of that mid-70s thing, and he captures it beautifully. And he has string arrangements and he has horn arrangements. Bernard Purdy plays drums on some of the tracks, so he's got of course the best of the best musicians. At this point, everyone knew who Quincy Jones was in the music world, and it was an honor even at this point in the 70s to work with Quincy Jones. This is a really great example of him having the pulse of what's going on in music. And really fantastic record. And after I got this one, it's actually makes me want to seek out a better copy of this one. So I'll be keeping my eyes out for it. Quincy Jones, Walking in Space. Excellent. Okay, the next one. I'm actually going to have a video coming up on this exclusively, but I went back and I've been revisiting George Harrison's catalog. Concert from Bangladesh. This is my copy that I bought years ago. Got the rip top and everything. I'm gonna go into more depth on a video on this very soon, actually in a couple days. But this is my copy. It's an original U.S. press. You can get these pretty cheap. So I wanted to revisit it for lots of reasons. George's birthday's coming up. I've been listening to a lot of George lately, and Concert from Bangladesh is so interesting, and I'm gonna be talking about it. And anyway. It's a great listen. If you don't have a copy, they're actually not expensive. You would look at that kind of vintage box set and think, oh my God, that might cost an arm and a leg. They're not. You can typically get them around $20 for really great copies. So I would invite you to try to check them out, try to hunt them down. The original copies. I have a feeling there's a reissue on the horizon of this. I think it got delayed during the last few years, but I have a feeling there's going to be a reissue coming. And I invite you to check out the original to see what you think. And it's full of gems. It's full of gems, and I can't recommend it enough. Again, more coming on that from me soon. The last bit I wanted to talk about was Sonny Rollins Volume 1. This just came out Friday. I grabbed it, and I love Sonny Rollins. He's really, truly one of my favorite sax players, and he didn't do a ton with Blue Note. He was on a lot of different labels, and there's not a huge Blue Note catalog, but this was a Blue Note classic. Just came out Friday. Sonny Rollins Volume 1. So, I mean, this was fantastic. When you look at this, original copies of this and even represses go for hundreds of dollars. I don't know, obviously the rarity, but, this is definitely a sought-after record. So listen to who's on this record, and, you might get an idea of why this is so special. So Donald Byrd, trumpet, Sonny Rollins, tenor sax, Wynton Kelly, piano, Gene Ramey, bass, Max Roach, drums. I mean, come on. Think about that. 1957. This is mono. Threw on the mono cartridge and gave this a listen. It sounds amazing. Amazing. Sounds really great. This has... on the back of this, I was reading, if you guys are familiar with the Blue Notes and a lot of the jazz records, they have really interesting narratives. Sometimes they're a little wordy for my taste, but, they're timepieces and they're cool to read while you're listening or whatever. This particular one had a statement about Sonny Rollins that I thought was really interesting, and I think I really understand it, and I really connected with it. He was saying how Sonny Rollins sits somewhere in between... not as, I don't know if he said clear, but something like this. Not as clear or as Stan Getz, and not as opaque as Coleman Hawkins. He sits somewhere in the middle. Sonny Rollins does. And I actually think that's perfect. You kind of know where you stand exactly with Stan Getz, and I love Stan Getz. And then Coleman Hawkins, of course, can rip with the best of them and brings you so many places. Sonny Rollins does sit in this beautiful melodic space for me, especially in this time period for him, where he's carrying these melodies so beautifully and strongly, but still can go to those hawk places. Really interesting. I thought that was a really interesting description, and I definitely, really, that sort of clicked with me when I was listening to this as to why he sits in that place, and I thought that was a really wonderful description of Sonny Rollins. This is a fantastic record. I mean, obviously this was just pressed, so you'll easily be able to get it for the Blue Note Classic, which is again around $28. Good price for an audiophile, sounding record. I cannot recommend this enough. If you're into the bop thing and the awesome swing music here, this is a fantastic session. This is a fantastic record. I really think this is a record that could, if it sells well, be one of those, how randomly some of the Blue Notes like go out of print for a while and go up in price. I don't know, this could be one of those. I really think it's that good, and it has that kind of provenance where the other represses and the original is worth a lot of money, all that jazz, you know what I mean? I don't know. And that's not why you buy records, I know, but I'm just telling you that if I don't buy every Blue Note classic, I don't buy every Tone Poet, this is worth it. This was, for me, this was absolutely worth it. And if you have any sort of inkling about Sonny Rollins in this sort of time, era of jazz, this is a fantastic record. I really cannot recommend this enough. All right, that is what's been spinning for me this week. I'm going to have another video coming very soon with George Harrison Focus, and I'm psyched about it, and I hope you are too, and I hope you enjoy what I'm doing. Again, please like and subscribe. If you haven't and you've gotten this far, clicking that little subscription bell, clicking that like, leave me a comment, say hi. Love talking to you guys and interacting with you all, and lots more to come. All right, have a great